Hello everybody, I am Keaton and this is Kid Catholic Season 10, Episode 14. I hope that you all are having an absolutely wonderful day so far. Remember, before I get into this video, to click the red subscribe button down below. It really does help out this ministry, help out this channel, so I would really appreciate it. And yeah, what I want to talk about today is something that I feel is of the utmost absolute importance. Especially when it comes to just today's society in general, especially since it is so normalized, and that is bullying, right? And bullying takes a lot of different forms. We know of cyberbullying, we know of bullying in person, there's a lot of physical bullying, there's verbal bullying, right? There's a lot of bullying, some more severe than others. And what I want to address today is sort of address just all of them in general, because they are a really, really big issue. And I feel like heading into the summer, coming off of what for a lot of us may have been a difficult school year, I think that heading into the next school year, heading into the summer, these are good things to remember. So I want to look at them from three perspectives. The bully, the victim, and the friend. And what I mean by that is the bully, the person doing the bullying, the victim, the person who is being bullied, and then the friend. This can either be a friend of the bully, a friend of the victim, and sort of how to deal with that. So starting off with the victim, because I feel that this is of the utmost importance to address. It's very important to know as the victim that these are not easy things to deal with, and that we hear all the time things like, oh, well, if you're being bullied, just come to God about it, right? Just come to God about it. Talk to an adult about it, and it'll all be fine. But a lot of times it's not that easy, right? Because even though that may be a practical way and that may help us a little bit, there's still that struggle, right? Maybe it's something that the bully said, maybe it's something that we're reminding ourselves that was said. It's a struggle being the victim. It is. But it's never an impossible struggle, right? It's never something that cannot be overcome. If one is the victim, it is important to note that the bully, like 9 times out of 10, is doing this because something is wrong with themselves, right? And we hear this all the time, and it sounds cliche, but the reason that it sounds cliche is because it is so true, right? 9 times out of 10, the bully sees something wrong with him or herself, and that is where he or she just finds that joy from bullying the specific person who is seen as a target. Ultimately, what they're trying to do is just do whatever they can to put you down in order to build themselves up, right? It sort of makes them feel like they're on top, like they're better in some way. And so a lot of times that is where that comes from. But it's also important to know that this bullying that we're receiving is a cross, right? It is a spiritual, mental, non-physical cross that we have to bear, that we are burdened with. Not one that we want, not one that we chose, not just your regular spiritual cross that we all endure, but a especially heavy cross, right? Again, depending on how severe it is. And when we look at when Jesus carried the cross, right, leading up to his crucifixion, he was God. He was fully man. He was fully God. But even Jesus needed help, right? Even Jesus wasn't able to do it just by himself. And so if we're having these harsh feelings when we're being bullied, if it is hurting us in some way, and we're having to bear that cross, then bearing it alone is never going to work. Yes, we need the help of others around us. And sometimes that is a lot easier said than done to actually practically be able to go and get this help. But if we want it to ever get better, then that's what's necessary. But not just help from others, not just help enduring the cross from others in whatever way that may be, but most importantly, help from God. Because yes, simply just saying, hey, I'm going to take this to God doesn't solve everything. But if we actually come to God with a sincere heart, if we take time in prayer, if we build up a relationship with him and we talk to him, and we ask for help with this burden, then that help will arrive. And it will help tremendously, right? It will help significantly. Even though it's just a spiritual thing, because our spiritual health is always more important than our physical health at the end of the day. So that's number one that I would say to the victim, is to get help from God, from other people. And I know that it is a lot easier said than done, but we have to be willing to motivate ourselves, to put ourselves in the situation where we are able to do that, right? Where we are able to get that help. And secondly, I know that this sounds cliche, I know that we hear this all the time, but it is genuinely talk to someone about it. And if it gets really bad, talk to an adult. because there's this sort of stigma right now that it's like, oh, you never bring things to adults, right? You always keep it yourself because adults just make everything messy. Like literally going to high school, that is what I've heard, right? That is a stigma going around. And again, cases vary, but I'd say 99% of the time that is just tremendously not true. Like genuinely a lot of times, if there's someone that we trust, if there's someone that we know very well, if there's someone that we love and we feel comfortable coming to them about this, then it's something that has to be done, or else nothing else is going to change unless we talk to that specific adult about it. Not just any adult, not just anybody who we feel like, but the adult that we trust, the adult that we know will be able to help with the situation. Secondly, I want to take a look at the bully, right? Because I feel like a lot of times bullies don't even know that they're bullies, right? They're just having fun, or they're trying to boost themselves up at the expense of other people, at the expense of people who they may see as an easy target. The thing is, the number one step for the bully is realization. Is just step one, realization. Sometimes it's done through a friend, sometimes that's done, the victim is able to help you realize, but we have to be able to realize. We have to go back and think, when have I made fun of a kid, right? When have I made a joke that I thought was a joke, right? That I thought was a joke, but it was absolutely not, right? We need to go back in our head and find the times, realize what we might have done. Now, for a lot of people, realization isn't enough. For a lot of people, the realization of what he or she might have done, it doesn't stop them from wanting to continue to do that bullying, to do that harassment, right? In whatever way it may be. More has to be done. And that more is putting yourself in the shoes of the victim, right? What I'd like to do is just, if you're in this certain scenario where when you're bullying someone, or you're making jokes, or you're making fun of someone, and you're not entirely sure how it's affecting them, you're not entirely sure if it's severe, you're not entirely sure if it classifies as bullying, just like close your eyes, imagine yourself as the kid, as the quote-unquote target, right? And put yourself in their shoes. Put yourself in what they might be going through. That is the upper realization, right? That's sort of the realization deep down. Because we can have the surface realization of realizing that we're being mean and not really putting a stop to it. Or we can have that deep down realization, that understanding of what exactly we have done. And then number 3 is to take our past sins, obviously to God, which I'll talk a little more about, but also to the victim. Because the thing is, a lot of times when like bullies sort of have a change of heart, or they mature a little bit, or they grow up, then they just sort of never talk to the victim again. I just think that that's wrong. I think that it's something that's difficult to do, obviously, like going to the person who you made fun of to specifically talk to them. That's a hard thing to do, but it's a necessary thing to do if we're ever going to move past it. But also taking that to God. Because the thing is, God is all merciful. God is all loving. And it is necessary that we take those sins to God in order to prepare for the final judgment, knowing what we have done to one of our brothers and sisters, right? Knowing in what way we have made fun of that person. If we have that change of heart, if we have that deep down realization and we know what needs to be done, we put ourselves in that person's shoes, not just on the surface, but deep down put ourselves in their shoes, then we need to take what we have done to God, just like with any sin. And then lastly, I want to look at the friend. This can be the friend of the bully, this can be the friend of the victim, whatever way it may be. And I feel like this is a super common one. This is a lot of us, and I feel like we don't always realize it. Whether we're the friend of a victim, whether we're the friend of the bully, it is very, very, a lot of times very difficult to know. The number one step to knowing is to just pay attention, right? Pay attention to the people who aren't your friends. Because think about it. If you're friends with someone, you don't really focus a whole lot. I mean, like, if you're with a group of friends, right? If you're at school and you're talking to your friend, you don't really notice other people a whole lot. And I'm not saying to just watch everybody. But if we're friends with the victim, for example, pay attention, whoever it may be, even if we think there is no way this person is being bullied. Pay attention to who this friend of ours, might be interacting with, right? If we're friends with a bully, pay attention to who this person might be interacting with. If we pay attention to a person who our friend interacts with, that we know that he or she interacts with, that'll help us to understand what if we're friends with the bully or if we're friends with the victim. Now, if we're sort of in that situation where we may sort of start to see, we may sort of start to understand, okay, maybe I am friends with the victim, maybe I am friends with the bully. What do we do now? And the circumstances are different. If we're friends with the bully, I know a lot of us, we like to sort of take a step back. Maybe we're a little more introverted, whatever it might be. We don't like confrontation, right? We don't want to talk to the bully about it. But at the end of the day, if it's necessary, it is necessary. If something needs to be done about it, something needs to be done about it. We need to talk to that person about it. And depending on how that confrontation, that sort of conversation may go, and again, in a loving way, in a loving, merciful way, talk to our friend about it. Talk to our friend who may be damaging another person. Because again, if we're friends with the bully, or really if we know anyone who is committing a sin, or if we're friends with someone who is sinful, a lot of times we don't want to point it out because we always hear, you can't judge, you can't judge. You're right, you can't judge the person. You can't judge the person for being a bully. You can't judge, say they're a bad person for being a bully. But what you can do is you can judge the act of bullying, and there is a difference. And so as the friend of a bully, or even someone who knows him or her, it is so important to call out that sin, because it is a work of mercy to call out the sin, right? It's not just a good thing to do. It's not just probably helpful. It is quite literally a work of mercy and a necessity. And then if we're friends with the victim, again, there is a huge stigma around don't tell anybody. And before we tell somebody, again, it's important to have a conversation with the victim, help out the conversation, especially if it is something that is very severe, if it's something that is ongoing, having a conversation with the victim. But again, the victim most of the time may not want you to go and tell an adult, and that's understandable. But it is a necessity. And the person may be mad at you, the victim may be mad at you for a little bit, right? Mad, oh, you told an adult. But ultimately, if it is for his or her better good, then if you are a true friend, if you're someone who actually cares about this victim, then you'll want his or her good, right? You'll want to tell an adult. And so that is the number one thing that I would say to anybody who is friends with a victim is, number one, realize it, understand it, right? Find it out in whatever way that may be, right? Again, maybe paying attention to who your friend is talking to, maybe talking to the friend, maybe noticing a behavioral difference, right? Whatever it may be, realization for all of these is number one. And then number two is being willing to tell an adult. And then for the friends of the bully, it is, again, realization and being willing to talk to the bully about it, and an adult if you get to the point where that is necessary. So, again, looking at it from three angles: the bully, the victim, the bully, the victim, and the friend. And again, the victim, always important to remember who to take our cross to, who we need to help carry our cross, carry our burden, and who we need to come to about it. Because at the end of the day, it is important to remember that you are absolutely never alone in any situation, because God is always willing to talk to you. And then two, if you're the bully, again, realization, that deep down realization, that sort of motivation to want to change, and then bringing those sins to God, specifically in the sacrament of confession, which we as Catholics have the benefit of having, right? We have the ability to have our sins forgiven by God through the priest, and so the sacrament of confession is a necessity as well. And then the friend, again, that realization, it is key for all three of these, and then also being willing to talk to your friend, whether that's the victim or the bully, and then ultimately an adult. And then lastly, I also want to touch a little bit on cyberbullying, because this is a more recent thing. This is something that becomes a lot more normalized, a lot more normal that we see happening in our society, in whatever form of cyberbullying that it may be. And this case is a little bit different for the three roles that I talked about. And it is, in some cases, a little bit more difficult to deal with just because it's more secretive. And the bully is willing to be a little bit more mean because it's online, right? Because he or she has the ability to hide behind a screen instead of actually having to confront you face to face. So that's number one. The number one thing I would say to the victim of this is maybe take a break from the internet, because the internet is not everything. The internet is not at all times a necessity. And if it helps us, if it helps how we see ourselves, then it's necessary. And then number 2 is to talk to somebody about it, because it's not going to be as easy to get the bully in trouble when he or she is sort of disguised, right? You may not be able to do that, but you'll at least be able to talk to somebody about what you're going through, and again, help carry that cross, because that cross is still there, even if the bullying takes place online. And the number one thing I would say to the bully in that situation is that, yes, you can hide behind a screen. Yes, the person who you're bullying may not know it, but at the end of the day, there is no way to hide our actions from God. Bottom line. And God's judgment is the only one that matters. So, kind of a necessity that we quit, whether it's cyberbullying or bullying in person. And then again, to the victim in both cases, cyber or not cyber, it is always important to remember that other people's judgments of us do not matter. Other people do not have a right to judge us. They have a right to judge our actions. They do not have a right to judge us as a human being. God is the only one who can do that. So, now that the topic is done, do y'all know what it's time for now? It's time for
the Saint of the Week.
And today's Saint of the Week is Saint Isidore the Farmer. Saint Isidore the Farmer's feast day was just a couple days ago, as of when this was posted, May 15th, which is really, really cool. But Saint Isidore the Farmer has such a simple yet such a beautiful story. He was an 11th to 12th century saint, and from the moment he was born, he was just automatically basically a servant. He was to work on a farm, one that he did not own, work for a wealthy landowner, and he essentially did that his entire life. But he wasn't ordinary. He wasn't like the other co-workers. He specifically had a huge love of religion, specifically Christianity, one that the landowner really, really admired. And as a result, St. Isidore the Farmer would start a lot of days with Mass. He would have prayer while he was doing his work, and was a hard worker as well. But because he did all these extra prayers and he had Mass, a lot of the co-workers, his other servants who were working on the farm, were upset that Saint Isidore the Farmer did not put enough work into what he was doing. They told the landowner did not care. The landowner believed Saint Isidore the Farmer, seeing the hard work that he put in, seeing the fact that he was still able to go to Mass, still able to pray, and consistently did so. He was also known for his huge generosity. He fed the poor an insane portion, something that was absolutely admired by a tremendous amount of people. So, I think that it is with sort of a simple story like that, like a simple farmer, right, who dedicated his life to prayer, who put emphasis on hard work. I just think that is a really, really good story for us to hear, because it reminds us that a simple but holy, saintly life is a good one, right? We don't have to go and speak to thousands of people. We don't have to be a martyr in order to be canonized a saint, in order to get to heaven. All it takes is that good relationship with God, that clean soul that Saint Isidore the Farmer had. Saint Isidore the Farmer, pray for us. So, thank you all so much for watching this video. Before you click off this video, I wanted to say there will be something coming next week, and there will be something posted on the community tab within the upcoming days or around next week that I definitely think that you guys should keep an eye out for. It is pretty exciting. Also, so that you are aware of all of this, so that you don't miss it, please click the red subscribe button down below and the bell next to it. That way you get notified when I come out with a new video. That would be really appreciated as well. Also, please check out my website, kidcatholic.com. My t-shirts are up there, my videos are up there, details about my speaking engagements are up there, so please go check that out. Also, like I mentioned, speaking engagements, I am doing in-person talks once again. Back from the COVID shutdowns, I'm happy to do them over Zoom as well, but I would love to do them in person. So, if you want to reach out to me about giving a talk at your men's group, women's group, youth group, church, school, whatever it may be, please email me directly at kidcatholic1@gmail.com, or visit my website, kidcatholic.com, click the contact me page, and email me from there, and we can get something worked out. And then, lastly, check out our 3 most social medias, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. The link to all 3 of those will be in the description down below, and comment any saint or topic suggestions that you might have for future videos. Again, thank you all so much for watching. I hope that you all are having an absolutely fantastic day nearing the end of the school year. This was Keaton of Kid Catholic. I'll see you all next week, and hi, Brielle.